We are officially live via YouTube. This can be seen by anybody on the YouTube. So, Ashley, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. He is Ashley. I am Chris, also known as the Infamous Biz, and we are two prominent members of the consortium. That is the League of Extraordinary Devotees, for those of you that do not know. Now, why did we come together today, all two of us, and look to discuss something of a pro wrestling variety? Because that's what we do, because we come from the same school that Mark Henry has come from. Therefore, we discuss things of pro wrestling. We discuss things of sports entertainment. We do it with gusto. We do it with our various swaggers. My swagger is of a Virginia variety. His is of an Alabama and Georgia variety. So we are very cultured young men. And we're black, meaning it's important. Now, with that little exposition out the way, I welcome you officially yet again to the first broadcast of the second League Council. You might wonder what happened to the first League Council. I honestly don't know. I don't want to know. There was some kind of incident with a guy named Adrian, and that's why we don't like Adrian. Now, since we don't have Adrian any longer, and Adrian's gone, so on and so forth, we can discuss major things now. Now, the first thing I want to discuss tonight is the hashtag Give These a Chance, because I was very happy when it showed up. Give These a Chance. Yes, fist pump and everything. Yeah. You have that. A lot of people still don't quite realize that it started because of that R Truth thing, the commentary that he did, where he would say, hashtag give Truth a chance, so he can be an IC title run race, which I guess he is. So you give Divas a chance. You have AJ Lee saying, talking about how Divas are paid less than their male counterparts, which is expected, but unfortunate all the same. Keep going forward. Of course, you have that 31-second match on tag team match, which is also great. On SmackDown the other day, yesterday technically, not 2 days ago, Thursday, you had a little promo from a commercial where you see Cameron backstage. He's talking about the Disney can't pass that, and I was upset. Then here comes Summer Rae. He's also talking about the Disney can't pass that, and I was more upset. Then comes Eva Marie, yet again talking about the Give These a Chance hashtag, and I was 3 times as upset. When I thought Give These a Chance, I didn't really think to myself, you know, do I want to give these a chance? And it sounds wrong. It sounds wrong. It does. I know it sounds wrong, but I just never really thought it in the. That being said, after I posted those thoughts on Twitter, I was someone replied to me whose name was, not ironically, Give These a Chance. Hashtag Give These a Chance. That, who really said, well, that's exactly why we have Give These a Chance. So they can get training and whatnot. Okay, that's fine and everything. But what's to say that they're not getting training and we're just not seeing it? I mean, we don't see everything that goes on and with this whole, we both went to the same college. We discussed the whole cost of college and whatnot. And we got to think about tuition. Tuition for a student only covers a very small percentage of the entire cost of the whole college, everything. So it's much like the WWE. What we see is we'll see a few matches every week. Raw, SmackDown, Network, NXT, Superstars, Main Event. You'll see stuff, but that doesn't mean you're seeing even remotely all of everything that goes on with WWE. So when I saw it, I was really sitting back saying, "For sure, man, it really did make me fall. Nice job, nice job." So I really was thinking, like, can I really give them that benefit of the doubt that they're not getting training just because we don't see it? Because I'm not thinking that at all. And I'm not saying that they're not trained. I'm saying that they may not have it. And you look at the competition. Some of them had training before they came to WWE. Look at Paige, every night before she came there. You got Sasha Banks, Mercedes, one day hopefully this is Christopher Lamb. So she did her thing beforehand because she got to WWE. So a lot of people had trained before they got to the WWE, and then they went to WWE. Some people started in the WWE and they became greater as it went along. He brought up Trish Stratus, which I thought was kind of distasteful. So, to be honest, Trish Stratus. You know, I was going to say, he was like this model and whatnot and everything. Then she became, great. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she did. But she also had it. She had it. You know? So, it just left kind of not a bad taste in my mouth because it was a little back and forth. Now, I appreciate some business remarks. I really appreciate some of mine because of following and whatnot. But it just kind of got me because at what point do we, stop, giving all these concessions and whatnot, and saying, well, it's bad because they're not getting training and whatnot. I'm not, of course, getting training. Okay, when he's part of the roster. You don't talk that stuff about Renee Young. She's not in-ring talent though. She does interview commentary. That's what she does. And she does it very well. Am I supposed to be like she's not getting training or anything, or not doing so well because you don't see her or anything? Anything with what's her name? Cody Rhodes' wife. But she botched up when she was announcing the other day. I was like, okay, whatever. But she's trying. You see her trying, you see her improving. But those were my early, some of my thoughts on it. Man. What do you think?
Well, as anybody who's watched L.E.W.D, hopefully most of you watching this have been to our site more than once. And even if you are offended, come back regularly to be offended even more. But, we've always talked about divas and we've always argued that the divas treatment should be better. And I usually take things one step further and say, well, women's wrestling should be appreciated a lot differently than it is by the status quo, so to speak. But Mr. Quinn Gadman, who's a part of our consortium, always says, there are two things about wrestling that you have to understand. One, men watch it to watch men beat each other up, and women watch it to watch half-naked men beat each other up. So women's wrestling in and of itself is a niche product. And when you look at women, you have to think about how society views it. And so there's a lot of changes that have to happen that can at least, how can I say, shape the battlefield, if we want to call it that, for women's wrestling to be more successful and for the divas to actually get a chance. You got to think, we spend more time harping on how terrible the divas are or how much better knockouts are than the divas than we do talking about Shine, Shimmer, Women of Wrestling, visiting divadirt.com, and all sorts of stuff. Mainstream websites, even websites under the radar like ours, and some other ones I won't mention here because of professionalism. They don't say anything about it. We just tend to harp on what the WWE is not doing. And since to get back to the point in the question you were asking, the WWE does set the standard, which makes this Give Divas a Chance hashtag and movement so important. But my thing is that puts the onus back on us fans, and I wrote about it a couple of entries ago, that if we really want this to succeed, then a grassroots movement that has to take place not only with the vocal minority of fans who got a hashtag moving, but it also has to take place with the mainstream fans who watch the pay-per-view, who have the network, who buy the merchandise, who buy the tickets at the live events, and that's where the real money is, because of advertisers and all these other things that come along. And the second part of that is that it has to be something that is sustainable in the long term. Give Divas a Chance. That hashtag can't be something that happens for the next 3 months, and the WWE throws us a bone, and all of a sudden we're happy. Then it's just 2 weeks after that it goes back to being what it was before then. It has to be something that has to be done on a continuous basis. Since we've just left out of Black History Month, I'll say it to you like this, and since we're getting ready to celebrate, or we are in the midst of celebrating the 50th anniversary of the March on Selma, I'll bring up the Montgomery bus boycott of Montgomery, Alabama. And you've heard me, Chris, talk about this a lot. What made that movement, at least from my 31-year-old perspective, what made that movement so significant is that at the time, 80% of the people who rode public transit in Montgomery at that time were African American. And so when 80% of the people stop riding the bus or using your transit system for a little over a year, and it almost bankrupts you, that forces people to pay attention, you know? And it was sustainable. And even there were all of these things that happened that in the middle of everything going on to make people think, oh, the boycott is over, get back on the bus. People didn't. So for over a year, 80% of the people who rode mass transit didn't use mass transit, almost bankrupting, like I said, the Montgomery bus system. And some changes were made because of that. In that same sense, if we really want to give divas a chance, we've got to do this for longer than 3 months or 2 weeks, however long the broadcast lasts. And when you start to see the product changing, you demand more, and you demand it to be consistent. So, for example, here's some ideas. Um, and for me, let's just talk in terms of WWE and TNA at this. Um, Giving divas a chance, giving women wrestlers a chance is much more than just having matches that last 5 to 8 minutes. You need compelling storytelling. You need characters that you can get behind, and you need a consistent presence on your main shows, your main products. One thing that neither company has done is had two women or multiple women main event a pay-per-view. And I'm not talking about it has to be a WrestleMania or a Slammiversary. I'm just saying one of these pay-per-views that you have, and everybody's like, oh, this is just a bridge to get us to the next pay-per-view, or this is just a moment to get us to the next thing. Neither company has done that. Neither. When you look at the landscape of both companies, there's all this clamoring about, women being athletes, but yet, oddly enough, both the Divas and the Knockouts are often paraded for their sex appeal too. So it's just it's a win-lose situation. It's like you can't win for losing, and you can't lose because you're winning. It's some depending on how you're looking at it. Also, why not have multiple storylines with your women going on at one time, but not intersecting? I think Corbin kind of mentioned it in an article he wrote for us, and I know I mentioned it in mine. But what's the problem with having? I'll just use 4 females, 2-1-2, good versus evil, in 2 separate situations, and they don't overlap. And if they do overlap, it's a one-time thing that doesn't take away from the storylines both of these groups of women are having with one another. What happened to involving women in major storylines and being much more than just auxiliary characters in the grand scheme of things? And so when we talk about giving people a chance, that's another thing that we have to consider, is that the product has to be developed in a more wholesome way, and we as fans have to really give them a reason to give divas, to give women wrestlers a chance. If I could go back to some of the points that you were talking about, and we never really think about this. We talk about our favorite superstars all the time. People we want to see get monster pushes, people we want to see do extraordinary things, people that we know deserve better than what they're getting. But wrestling, much like any other institution in the world where you hire people get hired for 2 reasons, I believe. One, because of necessity, and the other because of promise. So you may hire people because at that time you need them to fill a particular role, and then you may hire people because you potential. That's what I wanted to say instead of promise. They have the potential to be the next big whatever, or to be a heavyweight whatever, or to be a staple and anchor in organization, promotion. And so women wrestlers are the same thing. Yes, you've got the stock and quality to make it into WWE, because we don't even talk about the people that don't make it. I remember having that conversation with Quinn. We give so much grief to wrestlers in NXT, to think about how many people got signed by the WWE and never made it on NXT television. There's tons of people, tons and tons of people. There are tons and tons of people that come to trial camps that never make it. Even again, if we're let's move into TNA territory as well. You got to even think about people who tried out for British boot camp who were good but didn't make it on to television finals. And then the people that did make it on the television finals, they didn't get picked for whatever reason. And so I think it's the same thing, and I agree with you when you bring that up about divas. There are certain divas that have started the company and didn't know, and I'll use the same, a wrist watch from a wrist lock, or a wrist lock from a wrestling watch. But after 2-3 years of training, they are far along, much further along than they were when they started. But at the same time, when you consider somebody on the roster like Natalia, somebody on the roster like Layla, somebody on the roster like Tamina Snuka, and you want to put them in the ring with, I won't name any, other divas, but you get what I'm saying. Somebody that just now getting into a group of their talent, you have to ask yourself a question. Is this somebody that I'm willing to pay money to see? And that's the bottom line. Let us never forget that. Professional wrestling is a for-profit business around the world. There are probably a handful of non-profit professional wrestling organizations that do wonderful work for charity and all sorts of programs that help people in need. That is awesome. But we're talking about the WWE, we're talking about TNA, Global Force Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, whatever the case is, these businesses exist to make a profit. And the bottom line is, if you give divas a chance, be it Layla, be it Paige, be it Summer Rae, and Brandy Reynolds, that's Cody's wife. The question is, will you pay money to see their name on the marquee? It's one thing to say, I'll pay to see Trish Stratus and Lita close out a SummerSlam. Can you say the same thing about Summer Rae versus Emma? And maybe not at this point, And so,
Summer Rae do nothing. That's just me personally, though. I don't lie. I really got mad when I saw her in that promo on SmackDown. I was on the camera. And here comes Summer Rae, like, oh man, no. Here comes I left the room.
Yeah, you were offended.
I was mad. Like, I literally was right behind me. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, man, I ain't got time for this mess, man. No, let's have to give the Divas a chance. I don't want to give them nothing. But that's first. So going along that line, same line of thinking, well, kind of same line of thinking. Have you ever seen, and I guess you can kind of say in recent memory, a women's match close out a show period?
Oh yeah. There have been tons of. Matter of fact, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte on this week's past NXT show that closed out the show.
Yeah,
and
I know about that one. That's why I was asking the question. Really, if you remember any of the past WWE, TNA, anything that gets broadcast.
Oh yeah, I mean, the first one people would throw off the top of their head is the Raw with Lita and Trish closing out. The most recent one I can think of is the one I just mentioned. And as a matter of fact, I think it's funny that all the give people a chance stuff has started, because if you watch and you read, if you visit the L.E.W.D website, it's still realtomedammit.com. And the article that I wrote about NXT, I feel like the entire show was written in a way that gave prominence to them being in the spot that they were in. So it's like when you look at all the other matches and consider that they were all very short and you didn't have major storylines going on. So you had character development here and there, but nothing big. But everything seemed to point our attention towards Sasha Banks and Charlotte, which was a great match. Not the best one that they've done, but a great match nevertheless. Yeah, and so, I mean, it's possible, and we know this, and we as fans who write on our blogs, who write for these websites, we know this, but again, we are a vocal minority. I believe we are a vocal minority. We can start stuff, and it can get carried on in the mainstream, but the reality of it is this momentum has to be carried on to the people. 14,000 people, or 15,000, 17,000 people that are going to be in the arena in Pittsburgh this coming Monday for Raw. Can they carry our enthusiasm, and can we get them to carry our enthusiasm about these divas and what they can do? We know they can close out a show. We know. My thing is take it one step further. Put your money where your mouth is. Have them close out a pay-per-view, like Payback, or Over the Limit, or Fastlane, or whatever the case is. Build a solid story between two divas that lasts, with three divas that last and it goes an entire period, has peaks and valleys, hills and mountains like everybody else's does, and let them close the show. You know, and it's not like we've been in this situation before where, oh my God, the World Heavyweight Championship is closing out the show. Please, come on. You know? No, let's not go there. And so, I mean, yeah, they can do it. We know that. And, and I'm saying that, and it sounds misogynistic and patriarchal. But the point that I want to make is that um, anybody who steps in the ring, this is my belief, anybody who steps in between the ring, puts their body on the line day and night for our entertainment and for a questionable amount of money, you know, we don't know, but they know.
Right.
They give the opportunity to hone their craft and to do what they do best without any major impediments. Now, realizing that there are going to be impediments, um, hills to climb, um, hurdles to jump over, but you know, no one should be intentionally blocked from being able to hone their craft. Politics happens, red tape happens, glass ceilings appear out of nowhere. But when it comes to women athletes, and particularly women wrestlers, they should be given the opportunity to sink or swim just like everybody else. Almost like the bootstrap mentality. And the problem is that I think, much like our conversation, your conversation about how people view Roman Reigns, I think that the promotion and the fans are looking at the same problem in the same way, but from two different sides of it. You know, the company doesn't see an impetus to do more with women because we haven't done enough to show that um, if we don't see women wrestling the way we know they can and the way they should be allowed to, then we're going to take our money away. So they have to do it beyond what they're doing. On the flip side, we're mad at the company because I'm paying you my hard-earned dollars, so you should be doing more with women because I say so, even though you've got at least 3 million, and that's just a fuzzy math number, 3 million other people who are saying the exact opposite that I am, you know. And so the question is, when can we see this from the same page? When can we, as fans, um, put our money behind our mouths, and show the company that, hey, if we don't get what we're asking for, then we're going to start cutting up. And I don't mean by hijacking the show because that's cute and it's fun for us that watch it at home. But I mean hijacking your money. Watch the merch drop, everybody except the Divas. Watch all the segments drop in viewership, home viewership, except for the Divas. Watch, you know, the increase of shows like Total Divas or anything with a women's match on the network go up while everything else falls. And can we do that for a solid year?
And that goes right back to what you were saying about those boycotts. When you start messing with people's money, they don't pay attention to things.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, Martin Luther King Jr. didn't get shot because he was, doing all the civil rights stuff. He got shot because he started messing with people's money.
Messing with people's money, exactly.
Once that happens, it's another ball game entirely. Everybody's a target at that point. But yeah, that was my thing about the whole Give These a Chance hashtag. Like I said, a great sentiment. I can't agree with it more, but we got to actually do something beyond just say Give These a Chance. And it's like I said, support the troops. Well, what are you doing to support the troops outside of saying you support the troops?
Exactly.
I had a conversation with my uncle about that once. So I'm not going to get into it really because it's irrelevant to the live broadcast. But let's staying on the topic of the WWE. Little side thing here first about this new Flintstones movie that WWE is doing. I find it to be kind of funny that the only person on that in the cast of that whole thing that has the same name both in real life and in the actual movie, The Undertaker. So it's The Undertaker as The Undertaker. Because you ain't changed that man's name even if you go into the time with Bedrock. Nope, you ain't changed that man's name. Like CM Punk Rock or something.
Yeah.
Daniel, like Daniel Bryan Rock or something. Mr. Magma, but the Undertaker, you ain't messing with that name. Nope.
Yeah. You
That's
can't.
okay. Little side note, a little bit of humor for our one viewer. Thank you, one viewer. We love you. Nick.
uh, those Undertaker fans. Somebody changed that man. It goes to the time of Seth Rock. Nope, somebody changed that man.
Oh, well, okay. Well, while Nick gets his stuff together, we'll kind of move on to the next topic a little bit. Sure, we're gonna see you, hear and see you eventually. If not, well, y'all got Netflix. Um, we're still working the kinks out of this whole live broadcast thing. We'll get it together eventually, though. Moving on, because I want to talk about this because it still makes me laugh. The war between Adam Rose and Zack Ryder. Viewer, and we hope to say viewers eventually. It is most people that we of the L.E.W.D conglomerate aren't exactly very big on Zack Ryder. We use him as a punchline. When I talked about Adrian earlier, that is our fictional punchline. But Zack Ryder, we make jokes about Zack Ryder when we wake up. We wake up, we say a prayer, and then we thank God for Zack Ryder and his horrible, horrible brilliance of total irrelevance. Okay? So, while we laugh about the fact that he has been essentially the good boy of the WWE for oh so long, in a way that even Brian Kendrick or Shannon Moore was not able to, we have to acknowledge that this man refers to his and Adam Rose's scuffle, and even that's a hard word to use, this, as a war. Now, I haven't been following because I have too much self-respect to watch Adam Rose and Zack Ryder war. What exactly have they been doing to justify anything, calling it anything but a, test and futility in terms of watching?
Does it matter? I mean, it's just like when I found out the two of them were having a war, I said, "Wait a minute, this, what, where did, where's this going?" And what delighted me about it was that here you have uh, the Lou punching bag, Zack Ryder, and Adam Rose, arguably two very, very talented young men who aren't being utilized properly in some people would say aren't being utilized properly by a company, and they have some sort of disagreement going on. And it's unfolding on Superstars, Main Event, and the interwebs. And to me, that's wonderful because it's almost as if they're having a major feud on a show like Velocity or Heat. And um, I think if you have the network, those of you who didn't get rid of it when you threw a temper tantrum after the Royal Rumble, invest in it because this is where these are those moments where these characters get to do them and exhibit those characteristics that everybody say, oh, well, they should be doing this with Zack Ryder and they should be doing this with Adam Rose. Well, I think this is excellent for the both of them is because is because again, for the very reasons that I mentioned, they get to be themselves. But not only that, it's laughable because you're like, why is Adam Rose mad at Zack Ryder in the first place? I think this is what I think. When they ended the brand split, the infamous brand split, when they ended that, they effectively ended what was working out to be a good situation for talents who were more wrestling heavy than they were sports entertainment heavy. Raw being on television for 20 plus years now, 22 at this point, I think. Yeah, 93, yeah, 22 years. Yeah. 22 years. Raw being the flagship program of the WWE, at a certain point, big heavyweight names were appearing on Raw, and dominated Raw, justifiably so.
Right.
SmackDown becomes a B show, but B show ends up being a negative phrase, so to speak, in some circles. But in actuality, it had a completely, after a while, it developed its own feel, it developed its own style, and that's where you got to see, and I still think to this day, even to this day, you get to see a lot more wrestling, and that's what a lot of, people who dislike the WWE complain about. It's not wrestling, it's sports entertainment. Well, if you watch SmackDown, you get very wrestling-centered storylines, or the continuation of wrestling-centered storylines. And so when one was being brought up from a developmental territory, we could assume that they would debut on SmackDown and then eventually make their way to Raw once they hit that main event status level. And of course, people from Raw would sporadically show up on SmackDown and give everything some weight, but the system worked, at least from a fan's perspective, or this fan's perspective, the system worked. And so I feel like when you brought up Adam Rose, when you brought up Emma, when you brought up Bo Dallas, and you put them on Raw, you got these young talents who are trying to get over with a much, much more larger group of fans, but they're doing it next to John Cena segments, Seth Rollins segments, Big Show, Triple H, all these other segments that are going on. And it's easy for them to get lost in the shuffle because I don't know how wrestling programs are written out and scripted, but again, if a segment's running long, then yours gets cut short. If a segment's running short, yours has to go a little bit longer, and you're a new character lost in the midst of all these other things. Whereas on SmackDown, you can develop it and you have the time to do it because you don't have to worry about competing with the John Cena and a Seth Rollins and a Dean Ambrose and a Triple H and a Randy Orton, etc., etc., etc. So I feel like if Bo Dallas and Adam Rose and the Rosebuds and Emma were allowed to have that freedom in SmackDown, we wouldn't have had as many people saying, "Oh, they suck, they failed, it's a wash." Same thing with what's the group? The Ascension. And I'm going to point to what my brother Nick Johnson just said. Oh, you're asking him a question. I can't read it fast enough.
Yeah, read
yeah,
it with you, yeah.
Yeah, but Nick Johnson in our L.E.W.D group just basically said, or is it that we expect everybody to be called up to be Bray Wyatt? That's another very good point. We've gotten spoiled to the fact that if somebody doesn't, get a yes chance started when they debut on the roster immediately, then all of a sudden it's a wash. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Very excellent. So, I mean, there are multiple things going on, and so, again, another reason why I'm happy that Adam Rose is now relegated to an internet feud with the internet champion is because he gets to do his thing. I want to say, for us who call ourselves analysts, that's debatable. But for us who know much more than the average casual fan, and I admitted this amongst to our groups. Adam Rose was in developmental for 4 years. He was in FCW for 2, and he was in NXT for 2 more. And so, on one hand, you can look at him and say, well, he's been there that long, the company should have got rid of him. But on another hand, if he's been there that long and they haven't got rid of him, there must be something about him that they see as marketable. Same thing with Mark Henry. And as Nick said, Adam Rose's gimmick was like 10 minutes when he was Leo Kruger for most of that time. And even then, right before the Adam Rose gimmick, he was really starting to develop that Leo Kruger character a bit more than what he had before. I remember watching him in FCW with the green banana hammock and the South African sash. He went from that to being, almost like Skinner, but creepy. He was starting to get over his Leo Kruger, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now he's going to do this Adam Rose character based off of the guy from Get Him to the Greek. And I'm just like, what the hell? But then you see it and you're like, wow, this works for NXT Live, but how does that translate to the fans, and how does it get over? Another thing that I'll, say can be considered is that, Santino Marella was winding down on his career because of, or at least his in-ring career because of injury. At the same time, here comes the Adam Rose character. and everybody knows at least there's always in every wrestling promotion one joke character. ROH had Colt Cabana for years, and you had a whole bunch of other people. Grizzly Redwood, uh, hilarious, the littlest lumberjack. TNA has Shark Boy making random appearances. Curry Man, D-Ray 3000, etc., etc., etc. WWE's had tons of joke characters over the years. It breaks up the monotony of serious wrestling 24/7. And that was Adam Rose to me. But it just, fans, as soon as he debuted, everybody's like, what the hell? Crap on the gimmick, and it fails, and all of a sudden it's his fault. Well, not so much anymore. He gets to be Adam Rose, and he gets to do it with Zack Ryder, our punching bag, who I think they should just go ahead and make the Internet Championship legitimate and have him defend it on the Internet or the network, as it were, and never have it break day on television unless you get into this major feud that he has with Adam Rose or whomever. And it can't.
That's interesting when you think about it. Like if they did give Zack Ryder that kind of prominence, yeah, I think I'm not saying it would manifest in the same way that we've been able to see Curtis Axel make a rise, but it would be interesting to see how they essentially let him do his thing, his own way with minimal overhead, and just say, okay, Zack Ryder, let's be honest, none of us like you, so just kind of go out and do what you do, and we'll just kind of sign off on things if we kind of want to sign off on things more or less. And yeah, like I said, I didn't expect much to come from Curtis Axel with this whole Royal Rumble thing. I didn't. I'm happy something happened, but I didn't expect anything to come from that outside of WWE just kind of being like, oh yeah, he never actually got eliminated. Meh, whatever. He just go right back to complete irrelevance. Lo and behold, not only is he can take, grasping the Axel thing, but grabbing it by the horns, but he's literally in a segment with Stephanie McMahon and John Cena, essentially saying that he was better than Cena. He got whipped. He got whipped like a whipping boy, of course. It was expected. John Cena pretty much told him, he's gonna whip you. He's gonna whip his ass if he, doesn't get out of the ring. But Axel stayed in the ring. He ripped off his shirt like Hogan. He did the mannerisms. The crowd loved it, and then he got beat senseless. It's expected, But I guess I'm saying it's nice to see people, wrestlers, superstars, divas, what have you, taking something that is complete and utter nonsense and actually making it work. Did it with Curtis Axel. Mizdow might be a fine example of that, especially. Um, no one saw that being anything outside of just filler, but look at him now, and his and commercials as the proud recipient of Niagara. I mean, that's just what's man. By the way, your mute is on, Ashley. Um, but just so it's great to see let's see him take something that's bad and make it into something cool. With Ryder, I don't want to dislike Ryder. I say that with all the sincerity in the world, even if I say it reluctantly. But I don't want to dislike Ryder. But he makes it so easy to dislike him. It's so easy to not like him. And the WWE has done him no favors. They had no business putting him up with Eve and John Cena and Kane, because you knew how that was going to end. I mean, the second you put that man in a wheelchair, you knew how it was going to end. Before they put him in a wheelchair, you knew how it was going to end. It was terrible. It was awful. Kane just had his way with that man, and it's like, oh, come on, man. Hey, okay, I'm not okay. So okay, I'm liking the Sealand version of a range from with the bully. One off the cuff, Nick. Come on, give me a little credit. Um, Yeah, we knew where Ryder was going to go after that, and it was terrible. It was worse when he shows up in that wheelchair, Cena's just slopping down Eve. That was funny. It was hilarious. And like I said, we knew where it was going. But what exactly do you think could come from that whole idea of these mid card people taking these gimmicks, as bad as they are, and almost in a sense forcing the way to the point where you can ride more on their time than WWE has since WrestleMania. We have Nick, and I am not happy about that. I'm not happy about that in the slightest. But if they take these gimmicks and they actually make them,
You just now see what he said. that makes it even funnier. I'm gonna cut you off just 1 second. I want you to finish answering your question.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, for those of you that are watching or will watch this lewd extravaganza, this second lewd council, you can see that we're not professional at any stretch of the imagination. I'm making myself dinner. Chris is drinking from 2 different cups, and the both of us are laughing at our third lewd member who's just posting comments, and we can see it pop up. And apparently, I'm seeing them before Chris, so like it's just all over the place. But I mean, hey, you signed for it, so I mean, hey, it's lewd, all right? Go ahead, continue. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. The question was in the air was, what would it be if more people on the mid card took these gimmicks and more or less forced their way into prominence? Now, Curtis Axel has no business forcing his way into any kind of prominence with his gimmick, but he's doing it, and he's doing it very well. He really is, and he's really forcing his way up to that. So, what if Zack Ryder, as much as I don't want to dislike him, but I do dislike him, really took that Internet Championship, wore it around, and actually challenged people for it? Or if he actually went on the Internet or the WWE Network and challenged people with that belt? And what if he made up his own rules so that he was the only one that could actually hold that belt? Just little things like that.
Sorry, you caught me in the middle of scooping stuff. I would enjoy it. I think we all would, because I think the bigger issue is from a fan's perspective, is that when you've got a roster with talented people, loads and loads of talented people, you want to see them succeed. You want to get behind them, and you especially want to support their characters. Yeah, and Nick brings up the point. No better time for an Internet Championship with all the stuff that they're putting on the Internet. This is perfect. Yeah. And, it would do wonders, but the question is, how much will the system get behind them, and how can we encourage the system to get behind them? Mm-hmm. And it can't happen if, people are continuing to get rid of the network because they don't like the finish to a particular pay-per-view match. Which, while I have that on the stuff, while I'm on the topic of that, let's just look at it from a kayfabe perspective, if I can use that word. But let's just look at it from a storyline perspective. The Royal Rumble match, 30 people enter. Only thing you have to do is not be thrown over the top rope. And, I mean, that's a very large challenge, but the person who manages to survive being thrown over the top rope gets to go to WrestleMania. That can be anybody, from somebody like The Big Show to somebody like Santino Marella. Yeah. And so when Daniel Bryan doesn't get it, that's when we let our smarkiness cause us to not suspend disbelief. Or suspend belief, I think that's the right way to say it. So, Daniel Bryan comes back, then we know for a fact he's going to win it. Well, he doesn't. What? Screw this company. They're not interested in what the fans want. And then as Quinn said it wasn't that he got eliminated, but it was the way he got eliminated. Okay, well, so they didn't give him a Rey Mysterio enters at 1, makes it to 20, makes it to 29. Okay, but the whole premise behind the match is don't be thrown over the top rope. And Daniel Bryan was thrown over the top rope. It didn't have anything to do with skill. It doesn't have anything to do with, it's just he got thrown over the top rope. And people pitched a fit. But, move forward a month and a half or so, And that's the last thing in people's minds what happened in January. Now that we're closer, 20-something odd days away from WrestleMania, everybody's focused on how well will Roman Reigns do it. And the funny thing about it is, as much as you don't like Roman Reigns, he's still on the tip of your tongue, even if you're talking about it. And he is more John Cena now because of us than anything the company ever did to push him too prematurely. Because guess what? John Cena, after year 5 or so, year 6, was the same way. People hated him, people loved him. But no matter what he did, he always got a reaction when he stepped out. Same thing with Roman Reigns. Everybody may hate him, but how many superstars come to the ring and nobody does anything? Good question. But back to the point about Zack Ryder Internet Championship. I think, when you, and especially now that we're moving into year 2, yeah, the network is in year 2 now, or it's celebrating its second birthday, whatever the case is. And you start to develop more and more programming for the WWE Network, original programming, because that's where the money's going to be at, opposed to the stuff. Now is a good time for that thought to be considered, not only by the company, but by the fans. So if anybody from the company gets to use this broadcast, just think about it. What could it possibly hurt to turn the Internet Championship into a real thing and let Zack Ryder run with it? And then if his popularity eclipses whatever numbers you would like to see, just put him on television and have him do promos and spots, but have it all lead back to internet programming. Boost your television ratings, I would think so. And it also gets people to tune into your product. It's just like us and with our site and any other wrestling site with people writing. You have to give people a reason to come back to your site. And if everybody loves Zack Ryder, and if everybody loves to see him in a prominent role, why not go ahead and just give him, here's your internet champion. Or do like what you did with Mick Foley. But you know what, Mick? You're so great. Here's a belt that we pieced together from all these other belts. It's called the Hardcore Champion. Get out of my office. Why not do the same for Zack Ryder? Hey, Zack Ryder, people love you. Here, take your Internet Championship. It's a real thing. You've held it for the past 10 years. Now go away. And that's the end of that. The other thing you could do is, if that's not the route you want to go, then do it like this. Here's Luke Booking 101. Have Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler both on main television, on the main roster, into a series of matches, and they lose. They just got the match. Get fans all riled up and mad. How dare you disrespect Zack Ryder? How dare you disrespect Dolph Ziggler? And then have Dolph Ziggler and Zack Ryder separate instances go and complain to management. So management finally has enough of it. But you know what? I'm getting sick and tired of this. Ziggler, Ryder, you two are facing each other at the next pay-per-view. The winner gets the main event push, the loser gets fired. Put the fans in that awkward situation. And actually fire the guy. You know what I'm saying? And we can say Daniel Bryan necktie firing. Thanks, Nick. But get rid of the guy, let him go and season himself somewhere else for however long. Bring him back, start the feud over once your other person, your winner, is in a more prominent position, and you got a ready-made top mid-card feud at that. But put it back on us on the fans, especially when it comes to Zack Ryder. And for all the mess that we give Zack Ryder, he has got to be worth something to the company because again, they haven't gotten rid of him. But I mean, I would pay money to see that. I already resubscribed to the network. I would pay money to see that. I would pay to see Zack Ryder's name on the bill. Zack Ryder with the Internet Championship versus Rusev. I would pay hard money to see that because that would be great. Probably for the wrong reason, but it hurt. I guess that's my thing. What would it hurt?
Yeah. That's because it reminds me of JTG and how we just kind of accept him as our Lord and Savior, but then he got future endeavors. But we'll go back to that in a second. Nick posed this question. I don't know if we talked about it before he showed up or not, but do we really want to hashtag give Divas a chance, or do we not want to say we don't want to give them a chance? You keep muting yourself.
Yeah, while I said ooh, but why don't you give your thoughts while I'm constructing my sandwich here, and then I'll come back.
Good thing. No, it's not real silence. It's just microphone thing. But
yeah,
we we spoke earlier about the give Divas a chance thing. Person talked about in fact. We personally, actually, myself, assuming you, and maybe our one viewer, or several viewers, or that's you, still you. In any case, we do want to see, the Divas have a more prominent, role within the WWE. Closing out shows, closing out a pay-per-view was something that I actually mentioned especially. Um, in a sense, it's almost like saying, why should we? It's not. Well, not. I can't say it like that. But it's a question of taking it seriously. The company itself, uh, us as viewers, analysts, fans, what have you, and looking at it and saying, we want to see, we want to see the Divas thrive. We want to see them as more than just models or bathroom breaks. Or you just had to run when I said bathroom break, didn't you? I hope you hear this. In any case, um, we want to see, person want to see Divas because I pay per view. Okay. Even the best pay per view match don't carry the same muster intensity as the well-known men's program. Ooh, that's an interesting point. Um, the best Divas matches. Now, when you say the best Divas matches don't carry the same luster, how many Divas could sustain programs like that? I would say very few. But the question I'm going to pose is, when you say Divas, are you referring strictly to the main roster, or okay, it looks like you're referring to NXT as well. That would explain not too many. Um, that came into effect as well when we were speaking earlier about who we would really want to see, what Divas we would want to see get a chance. I mentioned earlier why the Give Divas a Chance thing got to me. It was I was watching SmackDown on Thursday, and the promo that came on after the commercial was Cameron talking to the camera, mentioning give Divas a chance, and how it's time for WWE to give Cameron a chance, and I got upset. And here comes Summer Rae, I get more upset. And then here comes Eva Marie, and I throw my arms in and walk out of the room because I'm upset. After all this, make some of my comments a little known on Twitter, and someone, that's a very, did we give Divas a chance with Total Divas? I'm gonna say, well, I guess it comes down to perspective. In my particular case, I'm under the impression that we gave Divas a chance, in a sense, but no, of course it hasn't. It's a reality show. It's a reality show for the development, creation. And I can't say creation, but development of the diva ideology. That is a terrible thing I just said. Not diva ideology, but divas as we know them within the WWE. I mean, we claim we want to see women wrestling versus divas, but we got Total Divas on E, which is mildly entertaining at times. I mean, it's okay. It ain't horrible. It ain't great. It's a solid C minus though. C plus on its best. B minus maybe, but it's there. Well, do you think that of course, because there are exceptions and outliers to every rule, but I don't think it says. I don't think we can. I'm not sure if I say we're afraid. Well, I can't say we're. It's wrong to say we're afraid because I can't speak for everybody. Now, I don't think women's wrestling isn't entertaining. I think with the right people, anything can be entertaining. Same thing with men wrestling. You know, if it's just not entertaining, it's just not entertaining. But of course, there are exceptions to every rule. You look at some of the women in NXT. You look at some of the women on the main roster. But the question is, what are people going to be more inclined to actually watch? Actual women's wrestling match or divas doing something for 31 seconds? Personally, I'd want to see a full match between two women's wrestlers. What I don't want to see is Cameron versus Summer Rae doing anything. And that sounds a little sexist, but nah. Can you name more than three significant Divas matches in history? No, but at the same time, I don't really feel like thinking about any Divas matches right now in history, which is pretty contradictory to the fact that we're discussing give Divas a chance. But yeah, no, I never claimed I was very that I was very good at this whole following the rules bit. Um, Cameron for a change is saying, I don't even remember what Cameron said. It was whatever she said at Tough Enough that got her thrown out as the first contestant. Uh, God, who were the two people who said Melina and somebody? Yeah, I'm sure you remember, Nick. I don't remember. I don't remember the slightest. Oh, we can give sock up. Doesn't mean that. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, sorry, technology is a beast. But you were saying,
Yeah, I'm reading Nick's comments and I'm just enjoying it because it's like it's what the point is we can give sock puppets a chance. Doesn't mean the sock puppets can do anything with it. Well, I'm pretty sure sock puppets won't do anything if we put our hands up and anyway. But you make a very solid point, Nick. Um, fact is, and this is what I said before, if someone has it, if two wrestlers have it, then they can do great things with it. That's what I'm always, looking for. I always put the person's gender or sex aside, and if they can work the ring, then they can work the ring. Period. But if that when we get to WWE, now, hey,
on
I see you back there. It's like, yeah, this is high too.
YouTube. You can make it. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just had to say hi, hi. But
Hi, everybody. Hi, Chris. Hi, Nick.
um, I lost my train of thought.
Sock puppets.
I like that. That's hashtag get wife get married. I wouldn't know. I'm not married. But yeah, if someone can work the ring, they can work the ring. Period. Is that what the WWE is really pushing with the Jesus stuff? I don't think so. I mean, is it really kind of suspect or telling that we refer to women as divas as opposed to women? In a sense, I mean, we're not dealing with Patti LaBelle's or Aretha Franklin's ring. We're dealing with women who are getting wrestled. I mean, you see improvement with some divas. You see significant improvement with some divas. When I was debating with that dude on Twitter who has the hashtag Get These Fans as his name, his first thing to reference was Trish Stratus. And part of me got upset about that because everyone references Trish Stratus first. It's like, everyone always says Trish Stratus this, Trish Stratus that. Yeah, she's good. I get that. But you got to actually dig the crate a little bit if you want to make a better argument here. It was like, and this is kind of, well, it's staying on topic, but in a different way. This kid got suspended, or not suspended, but banned from doing something at his school because on this day where everyone came in costume, he came in as the male lead from 50 Shades of Grey. That's what his costume was. So he showed up in a suit, came and had a blindfold in one hand and cable ties in the other hand. And my first reaction was, that suit's too big for him. Then my second reaction was, well, I mean, if he didn't show up with the blindfold or the cable ties, I doubt anybody would have even known what he was doing. And then my third thought became, why is an 11-year-old reading about the whole BDSM culture in a very terrible series of books? And the mother said, well, I mean, other kids are dressed like serial killers and everything, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. See, that's your problem right there. You're starting with the comparative argument. All right? You start with the positive, then you go to the superlative, then you go back to the comparative. If you start with the comparative, you just look like an idiot. And, that's crap. I lost my train of thought yet again. This is why I can't go on tangents. I lose my train of thought when I get into a good metaphor. So I apologize because I lost my train of thought, but I'm sure it was something that would have supported my argument, whatever my argument is. I'm sure it's a good one. I don't quite remember. when we value women's matches, not in comparison to men's matches. It's impressive because we haven't seen women do that. Yeah, I suppose so. You know, so let me ask this, Nick. If the women's matches were in effect, when Trish and Lita wasn't anything new or exciting, it was new and exciting to see women exposed Raw. True, that's true. Well, okay. But like this, if the WWE had more women's matches that I'm not gonna say we're on par with the men's matches because we're just kind of assuming that they already are, and it got to a point where they were just as common or they were just sprinkled throughout the whole main shows and whatnot as the men's matches. Would that have an effect on how we view women's wrestling? Because I'm not big on what if scenarios. I don't like what if scenarios. But I guess I gotta go into that territory with this. If we had women's matches just as common and prominent as men's matches, and they were, my view is we view and allow, finger quotation marks, them as a secondary to men's wrestling. So their accomplishments are essentially, that's good for a girl. And that is a problem with our mind state. We can't really expect to take women's wrestling seriously if we always look at it and say, it's women's wrestling as opposed to just wrestling. Someone can't do that same argument about gay marriage. We can't look at it as you can't always look at it and say, gay marriage, like, it's marriage. Gay people getting married. I don't see what the big deal is. I guess it's something similar here with women's wrestling. We keep calling it women's wrestling. We look at it as wrestling between women as opposed to just wrestling. And it just so happens that the competitors are women. That's what I think at least. But I'm not saying I'm trying to pull a Stephen Colbert now and say I don't see race or anything, but I really couldn't care less. As long as they're happy in the ring, it's on them.
Well, here's a question. And Nick just brought up a very good point when he's asking us questions and you're reading it. Mm-hmm. What do we expect from women's wrestling? That's not a rhetorical question. That's an actual question. What do we expect from women?
Okay. Me personally, I'm just expecting a good match. Anytime I watch NXT, especially as much as I harp on how great the matches are between Charlotte and the future Mrs. Lamb are, I'm always saying if it's not a good match, I really don't care. And they consistently deliver good matches. A lot of the women of NXT are terrific wrestlers, and it's a damn shame that we don't see that as well in the main roster. If that whole thing about the main roster being what are the standards for a good match, we get excited if it's a good match or exciting as a men's match. I get excited for a good match, period. My standards for a good match is something that actually has me invested in the match, something that has a bit of a wow factor. Everything doesn't exactly have to be mind blowing and edge of your seat, but it does have to be solid. It does have to be good back and forth. It does have to have some. It has to have some in-ring storytelling. So there does have to be some. Just like all stories are, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The match has to be the same way, even if it's a part of a larger story. So, when it comes to any match, if those elements are missing, then it's not good.
And I guess that's one of the points of me bringing that question to the table, is because, and Nick is playing devil's advocate by asking these questions and getting us to talk about them. Is that on one hand, when advocating for giving divas a chance, we're coming from a particular perspective, asking for a particular way for the products to be presented. But on the other hand, we're still creating this divide, in wrestling, because we're not. I mean, it's wrestling, and we want entertaining matches, no matter who's in them. And so, with the exact same fervor that we're asking to give these a chance, we're like asking to give wrestling a chance. Regardless of who's doing the wrestling, people shouldn't be relegated to 30 seconds on television. Or at least as we see it, as far as a match is concerned. And again, as we talked about earlier, that's not even taking into consideration what it takes to plan and produce shows with segments and, having to hit so many things with 3 hours, well, really less than 3 hours, maybe 2 hours and so of actual product, and the rest for all, is relegated to commercials and advertising, promoting things on the network. So, like Nick said, it's like, we're saying give people the chance, but it's really, we want to be entertained. Your women are entertaining to us when they wrestle, just like the men. Why can't we get this form of entertainment as well? Good point, Nick. But that's why we're having this second league council.
Yeah.
31 seconds is just come on, really. And I don't know if either of you have read it, but Nikki the Bellas did this. Nikki and Bree the Bellas did an interview, and they were explaining what went into them doing what they did in 31 seconds. And if I'm remembering correctly, even I think it was Nikki that was saying they had 2 minutes, but it's like, what could they do in 2 minutes that promotes the story of what's going on between the Bellas and Paige, etc. And I think that's what aggravates fans who want to see 2 hours, 3 hours of straight wrestling, is that the E tends to focus so much on the story that the wrestling becomes secondary, which is what we saw in the trailer. But the funny thing about it is, the whole Give Divas a Chance movement started because of what they did in that 31 seconds. 2 maneuvers, a kick and a finisher, 1, 2, 3, and the story. And even with us being frustrated with how things went, there was still a story that was told in those 31 seconds that caused us to get to this point where we're having this conversation about Give Divas a Chance. So I think, Nick raised very, very good questions for us to chew and palaver over. But I think we also want quality wrestling that doesn't shortchange anybody on the roster. So it's very awesome that you chose to give Divas a chance in the Zack Ryder, Adam Rose thing to talk about, because with the topic that we're dealing with is underutilization of people that you're paying to, or at least what we see as underutilization. Again, we don't know anything that goes on behind the scenes. We don't know what it costs to run a promotion, or at least most of us don't. Most of us sitting behind our keyboards and our computer cameras talking about it, we don't have any clue. Outside of WWE Storyteller, and I mean, that's in general manager mode when they had it. But other than that, we don't know what it takes to run a promotion and pay to see what we don't have to worry about that. But at the same time, we all know, us and the people who run the product, we've got talented people. And it's just like you're not really getting the most bang out of their buck. Whether you want them to do, monologues and quote Shakespeare in the promo, or you want them to go out there and tear the house down and just kind of be you on the mic. The reality of it is, in professional wrestling or sports entertainment, you can't expect someone to get over a character and not spend some time talking about motives, anxiety, fears, and connecting with the crowd. You say what Nick said. That's a very good point.
So in a sense, it's almost like saying we don't want to see, we want to see it so that it's kind of gender neutral. You know, we kind of want to see a gender neutral, landscape. So it doesn't matter if they're men or women. They just throw down in the ring, or they just throw down with these stories that they're telling. And I mean that's a reflection on a lot of things. I'm not going to make no metaphor to society or anything, but it really comes down to how do you see? How do you see it? You, you always see someone's gender, first and foremost. And I'm not saying that we do, or that it's right or wrong or anything. But we're always trying to see a product that is good across the board, regardless of what someone has in their name. Period. And I think that's an impossibility right now. Okay? Black Youth Union,
Oh, here we go.
See, Nick, now you making it fun. All right, okay. Unity, but your actions are being separatist. I'm not going to even argue with that. I can't really argue with that. This has come from a guy that went to an HBCU, which in and of itself, at least his name, is kind of separatist. But it's not like anybody's been excluded from going there. You know, I'm really about to have fun. So yes, in a sense, so that is those things. Black Asian American badges. I didn't realize there were Miss Asian American badges. Yeah, so you have to link me to some of those things in your future. Yeah, yeah, there is a separatist aspect to that, but I'm not gonna get into race or anything right now. That's another topic for another conversation that doesn't have to be in our first live broadcast. We do kind of want to do this second time next Chappelle show. But yeah, controversy creates cash. Yeah, but we need to have viewers to have controversy to create cash, though. We're at 0 viewers. We have 1 viewer to start with, then we went to 0. We have 1 again, and now we're back at 0. So I don't know what we said controversial so far, but we've done something. We really want to get controversial. We'll just get Corbin to start talking on one of these. Say, hey man, it's 40 minutes to this system. We are not Sparta. We're the thinkers. All right, we're the thinkers. All right, we went down with brains. They went with their brawn. Now, who cares if they get movies? We got history, like Muhammad. Um, but yeah, well, yeah, there's some separate stuff going on, and that is actually the best word to use for those things you brought
But
up.
you know what?
Go ahead.
I wanted to say that goes back to, you made the point, or you made the statement rather. You didn't want to talk about societal stuff, and it's just, like we won't get into a religious conversation over, over this, but
One, we can't do it yet.
yeah, we can't do it yet. But religion takes on whatever a person's faith beliefs are, or even they don't have it. That all deals with the culture in which you live in in which you operate. And so, a church in Ireland is going to exhibit some very Irish things that Irish people may not realize it, but when you take a bunch of Irish church people out of Ireland and plop them in the middle of California, you'll be able to see it because people in California are going to do church like people in California do. And if you take them and put them in New Zealand, same type of thing. Or you take a Californian and just drop them in the middle of Zanzibar, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb because they're gonna be operating like a person from California in the middle of Zanzibar, and vice versa. And so I think it's the same thing when we're talking about this and women's wrestling and what happens in professional wrestling. So on one hand, we can say, yeah, it's very separatist, but at the same time, do we not make these distinctions in the larger society? And the problem is that in the larger society, we haven't figured out a way to recognize people's differences without, what do I want to say? Recognizing people, bringing people together, but at the same time recognizing their differences. And I look at it like the WNBA and the NBA. WNBA started. I remember one of the tagline for it was "We got next," and so already something's wrong because you can't, you have to create a whole nother fed for basketball players as opposed to, having them be in the NBA. But then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you just don't want to get into or you couldn't get into at the time when you're talking about having men play alongside women in the same bed. You know, that would create a whole lot of hell that people at the top who got all the money probably didn't want to think about at the time and still don't want to think about it. And so then when it started, because it may very well be different now. You're promoting women that play basketball and do the same types of stuff that male basketball players do, or male professional basketball players do. But then when you look at the rules set up for them, the rim was bigger, the three-point line was closer to the goal, like the ball was slightly smaller, and I mean it's just like it's not equal, but it's equitable, and I think that's the bigger problem. It's not a thing. It's not just a thing of separating the men from the women, but it's giving female athletes equitable time to showcase their talents and abilities in the same way that you would give your male wrestlers equitable time to do the same thing. And it's very, very arguable that Zack Ryder and Adam Rose could have 2 minutes flat to do what they need to do in the ring, but when you come to your women wrestlers, they get 30 seconds. Their segment is the one that gets pushed because I need this overrun time for Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. You get what I'm saying? As opposed to having the Mizdow, but isn't adapting the game to women just saying we'll let you play our game? Very good point. What do you think, Chris?
Well, first I'm going to say this. Regardless of what anyone says, we are not the world, okay? We do not look at everything and say, oh yeah, we're all the human race. Yeah, very few people look like that. I'm not saying that they're bad people. It's just not how we're hardwired. Maybe it is, and we just don't care. In any case, adapting the game and this thing, which is an argument, yeah, but that really shows in a sense, how we view, you know, women within professional wrestling. We're not looking at it as, all right, you're going in there wrestling. You're going in there saying, all right, go in there and do the best you can. Maybe it'll be as well said as what the guys did. We gotta get to the point where we're like, all right, go in there and do what you do. Do great. Say the same thing with guys and say women, feel like that. And that's changing the mindset. That is, changing the way we look at things. Because we are never going to see. I can almost say this with certainty. A Mr. America pageant. I don't care to see a Mr. America pageant. And that's not me being sexist or anything. That's just me saying I have no desire to see it. And to be fair, I don't want to see this America pageant either. I really don't see a focus for it. So, we are kind of in a state where we say, when we look at as environment, the sport question, dominated by men. And the second women try to do anything, whether it's, achieve some level of promise or be great, do anything, we automatically discount part of it, but the fact that we don't look at them as things like we go back to DNA, and we got to look at it just from the sense of how it is, how it has a woman that succeeds, and we look at it as a company is bad. And the first thought on my mind is, this can't run wrestling company? No, it doesn't. But it doesn't really leave a good taste in your mouth when you look at the second largest company in the United States. And it's run by a woman and she doesn't know what she's doing. Or she does, and we just don't appreciate it. Right. knockouts, yeah, there's wrestlers are not cool. I don't think doing stuff that so on and so forth that is generally interesting. But at the end of the day, who cares? Well, I mean, who cares if there's a knockout title? There's tag team knockout titles. Who cares about any of them? So it is fair to see the knockout team stuff or the other. But those are things that I mean, let's be honest. We got just as many viewers right now as the average wrestler. But it's not like anyone's watching. All right. And then back to WWE. It's about changing the mindset. That's difficult. We take it back to what we were talking about with the boycott scum and everything. You know, messing with people's money, that's going to change how you use somebody. Uh, but changing a mind state to really have to look at situations and be like, this is terrible. We can't have this happen to people. That anybody that it's going to ride the bus with him, watch us not either with the same rights. Us changing someone's mouth, changing someone's heart, changing everything about them, changing the way they're hardwired. And that is the hardest thing to do. So change the entire fan base of time about the perception of women in the professional wrestling world. I mean, if you really think about it, how much respect do we have for Trish Stratus? How much would we have for Trish Stratus if we weren't attracted? Honestly, how much respect would we have for her if we weren't attracted? I mean, and then on the other side of town, when you look at TNA and you look at Austin Hall. And I'm not saying that she's not attractive or anything. I'm saying that in the traditional sense, that a lot of people would say, this is attractive. He does not exactly fit the traditional mold as whole body. Women's magazines in the 427, I don't know, whatever those magazines called. But, maybe one part of it, that's the respect because she was around these people. Then it comes down to respect her as a wrestler or do you respect her as someone that you love? I'm respecting her because she's a woman that's going on to the club, because she is a wrestler woman. Honestly, if this is what I got to decide to make it devil's advocate, like and whatnot. Oh, hold on. The woman Trish Stratus is an exceptional example. How much of an exception because we saw a woman do her family? The marathon earned on the action to the only because she was a woman. Oh man, I wish you had the voice going on things because you would be the controversy that would big cash right now. In any case, you're right. You're absolutely right. Um, the question is, which you is respected, now on there. Fans, which I'm a little jealous. I ain't got no fans, so I don't feel like you should do it like you fans. Well, actually, I do, but I'm not gonna. Not yet. But I live in the block. I ain't got that. Don't want to go to bed on full stomach. Um, but yeah, I mean, we gotta acknowledge that. A lot of women are women. Uh, we just can't women accomplish because we make it easy to be respected. Our fault as a society. Once we feel less standard, we naturally go to a new society when they compare to men. They aren't saying because they do something new. The only good businesses, they are applauded because they women did it. And that,
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm laughing for the same reason because
yeah,
that was the same argument that I used long ago when having this same conversation with Quinn. With the very same thing that I said. That, Nick Johnson is a god, GAWD. Um, yeah, Nick brings up a good point. They applauded because women did it. What did I tell Quinn? I told it to Quinn in that when we were talking about the knockouts, what makes the knockouts better than? And it was like, oh, because they do stuff that the men do. So like when it's not that their matches, their matches are perceived of themselves quality. It's just like they can get in the ring and do the same thing that the men can do. And that goes back to what we were just saying a few minutes ago. This is not just a professional wrestling problem. This is a societal problem. You know, we are not taught to perceive women as being capable of doing what men can do, or doing what they can do in their own right. It's always a comparison. Or better yet, maybe I say it like this. Maybe it'll come out better. Some fans who love TNA more than WWE cannot say whether or not TNA is good unless they talk badly about the WWE. So in a similar sense, I think what Nick is posing for us is that we can only speak of women's wrestling in terms of what men's wrestling is or isn't, as opposed to looking at what they can do and seeing it as athletic competition, period, without putting that adjective in front of it, based off of, like Nick said, based off of their actions and not because they're women. Is that, how do you get over that hurdle, though? Like, how do you even begin to acknowledge that that's the problem and then move forward with it and sustaining it over the period of time? Because, even as he pointed out when he started and brought us back to this conversation, the whole give divas a chance as opposed to give wrestling a chance, and going from that point, it just sets us up for separatism. In a sense, it sets us up for separatism without really acknowledging what the context of the situation is. I don't even know how to answer that one like that. That's pretty deep.
I mean, maybe we never good in that regard, though. How do we perceive all this? And that we do, look at physical orientation, not gender, okay? And the question, well, did they do it as well as the guys did it? Yeah, they did it as well as the guys did it. Well, I guess it was good then. Right? But it is. Oh, jerk. It's like say, well, did they do it as well as the guys did it? No, not really. Was it still entertaining? Well, there was nearly a more war malfunction. Fantastic. Wonderful match then. Terrific. I mean, like you look at Paige. No, you see talent in Paige, but I see talent in Paige. I see that she can actually wrestle. She's good in the ring and whatnot. But the most noteworthy things I've seen from her as of late, ironically enough, that she's nearly had a wardrobe malfunction 3 times in the past few weeks. Now, a lot of people say there was one. No, there were 3. And I don't know if it's a reflection on me, if I've noticed that there were 3. But, yeah, I mean, I noticed these things, And maybe at the same time, I also noticed, when she's trying to win match. Of course, she's going to need, better opponents, put on, consistently great matches. But, it goes back to perception. How do you treat it? Like, I don't even notice if the guy's gonna have a wardrobe malfunction, but I don't want to notice if the guy's gonna have a wardrobe malfunction. So that's just why. That's why you keep old divas accountable. Oh man.
Yeah. And it's great because he's just typing. We're the ones that's got to talk about it. Nick said it.
He's a marketing man, okay.
Yep, and still champion. Yeah. You had to drink some water on that one.
I'm enjoying the water, period. But I'm not disagreeing with what Nick is saying or typing in this matter. Maybe he's saying it as he types it. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with this whole notion that you have to reach for the same height and reach for the same goals. Whether you're a woman or a man. But then it comes down to that old adage, I took it down to much as I hate to reference it, scandal. Because the last time I heard of it was where what's her name's father was talking to her, and he said you have to work twice as hard to get half of what these white men achieve. You know, and then you come down to the whole little split thing, the perspective. Women in the WWE. You say they have to work twice as hard to achieve half as much prestige as a man. And you say, work just as hard as you've been working, which is just as much as a man. And essentially, they just gonna look at it and say, great wrestling is just as much as men. I don't really think there's a solid answer to that. I don't think there's a solid answer to that because there's no right answer. There's no right way for that to go along. So, at the end of the day, you look at the future as more than just in-ring competitors. Look at them as much as models and eye candy. And maybe women do that with the men too. Maybe women do it with the women as well. I don't know. I can only speak from one perspective, my own. And let's be honest, that's just as much as anything else. I'm the one guy that knows his free wardrobe malfunctions on the diva, and everyone else is just one. And I can't open that picture yet because that link yet because then I will be disturbing my feed. So let me first set this up so I can look at both of them. And all right, okay. This is justice. This is equality. This is equality. Okay. Well, I mean, you ain't right here.
Nick and his memes.
Hey, that ain't wrong, Like everyone has the same soapbox. That's, I guess you call that fair. Everyone can see it, can see everything. That's I don't know what you call that. What would be the thing you say along with fair? Say justice and fair to go hand in hand. Equality and what? I don't know.
I use the word equity. The way it was explained to me, and I like the way that this was the president of a college explained this to a room full of people. He said equality is you go around and if everybody in the room had glasses of water, equality is going around and giving everybody the same amount of water. But you've got some people whose glasses are empty, some people who didn't touch their water at all. So, the people who didn't touch their water at all, if you give them the same as you give somebody whose glass is empty, you're spilling water all over the table and the tablecloths, and you're just kind of making a mess, Or if you only give everybody a little bit of water, based on, everybody who already has a full glass, some people may not get more than a spit. And, the old folks in the South say a spit of water. That's not really helpful. So his whole thing was equity, and I think that's kind of, justice, where justice and equality meet, what Nick was talking about. Equity. Give everyone, what's needed according to, their particular situation. In a sense. The mean that he did is not exactly equity, but it is definitely justice and equality as he posted it. And so I think if I can make an analogy, it's almost like our argument, or at least my argument amongst the L.E.W.D group, where we're talking about certain stars that we believe should get monster pushes because they're really good wrestlers, but at the same time, what do they offer as far as entertainment value beyond just being good wrestlers? And what we talked about earlier, would you pay to see this name on the marquee at the top of the card on the main event? And at what point do we hold, we blame the promotion and we blame the suits for everything under the sun that happens? When people get fired prematurely, when people stick around too long, the storyline doesn't work, the storyline works, but it doesn't work the way we want it to. We blame the suits for all of these things. But at what point do you hold talent accountable? Let's go deeper with this particular analogy. The Bill DeMott thing that's come up. And you've got people on every side of the debate, people supporting DeMott, people who were saying he's a bully and this, that, and the other. I would like to take it the same way that Justin LeBar did on WrestleZone and say, you know, I'm not saying you should support him. I'm not saying you should be against him. But one of the things that we have to take into consideration is that some of the complaints, not all of them, some of the complaints just really sounded like he made me do hard work and I didn't want to, and not all of them, because some of the things that were alleged that he did, some of the alleged things that he said, given where we are as a society, was just uncool to say it in, for lack of a better phrase, just wrong or not politically correct. You know how some people feel about politically correct. But at the same time, as many people that came forward and said Bill DeMott this, that, and the other, and he shouldn't be a head trainer, you had just as many people coming forward putting the accountability back on the stars. And so, I made the joke in L.E.W.D that they should get Bill DeMott, JBL, and Hardcore Holly their own show on the network. And if you can survive a month with the three of these guys as your trainers, then you automatically get a main event push on the show. Because, that's just kind of a part of the business. And if you're dealing with old school people, you're going to be doing some kind of old school things. Some of which may not be cool, and it's like, yeah, hey, it's not right. It's not, you can't offend people in this way or that or the other, especially in a work environment. You can't intimidate people and bully people in this manner. But on the other hand, the person's pushing you to your limits. What happens, when you make it to the main roster and you come out as darling superstar Jim and everybody boos you? You go in the back and cry all night? Like, what do you do about it? So, in that sense, what Nick says is, I think I understand a little bit better in that way. It's like, at what point do we hold the wrestlers accountable in these situations? And I think, in a way, that's what's happening. When I mentioned the interview that was done with Nikki Bella and Brie Bella, is that instead of placing the blame on the suit, they're saying, well, we had so much time to put over a particular story and tell a particular story, so we decided, this was what was best when it came to telling the story that we wanted to tell. And boom, it blew up in an unexpected way, or maybe a way that we expected it to. Now, she didn't say that, but that's the after effect of it all. And now you're talking about it, and now you put more attention on the athletes, and the athletes then have to turn around and give you a reason to stay connected to their characters and to what's happening with them when they do their thing in the ring, when they perform and hone their craft. And if I could quote, or loosely quote, Kathy Bates from the third season of American Horror Story. Have you seen Coven? You seen that one, Chris?
Nope, haven't watched it at all.
Okay. Well, basically, Kathy Bates' character was this character that lived in late 1700s, I think. And L.E.W.D put a curse on her, and so she was immortal, basically. And she gets dug up in the late 1900s, 2000, whatever. So late 1990s, 2000, somewhere around there. And she still has all these, 18th century sensibilities. Black people weren't African Americans or Africans; they were, and she looked down upon all minorities and And at some point, the young lady who played Precious, Gabourey, she was in it, and she had this conversation with Kathy Bates about, her character, just the way she looked at people of color, black people, and So later on, I can't remember if it was Kathy Bates, her, or Kathy Bates and another character, but they were talking about Kathy and she was watching, the president and all these other things. She was crying. And so they asked her, are you crying because you realize the error of your ways? And she's like, no, I'm crying because everybody in this millennium or this era is soft. It's like, I know what I am, I know what I say, and I stick to it. I don't apologize for it. That's me. That's how I grew up, and that's who I am. But now everybody's apologizing Everybody wants to do kumbaya, we are the world, this, that, and the other, which is basically lying to people's faces. And it's like you're soft because we don't even know in this era how to be able to tell people this is what I believe and I'm not backing down from it and dealing with, the consequences after that. Now that particular, thought process takes you down a whole another line of thinking, but Nick raised the same thing, raised the stakes for us when he brought that up, when he said, hashtag hold you accountable. At what point do people say, okay, well, if you're given 31 seconds and the best you can do out of that 31 seconds, or the best you can do out of that 25 minutes, get in, get it done, and get out, what makes that any different from the superstar who claims to be the greatest thing in professional wrestling since professional wrestling was exhibited, and that's all you can do is sell or do great pro wrestling maneuvers, but I don't have a reason to invest in your character other than you being a great athlete.
So have I, Nick. I have often seen films taking time for the community to start. One of them, of course, being out of just a clip of a prisoner, not prisoner, he was in court, and the lawyer, reading something that he had said. Girl, your stick is in a bowl of oatmeal. And then you just hand over to him, he's given one of these. My mind was just, I reached enlightenment when I watched that. I did. Sheer enlightenment. That is real. But on the storytelling and whatnot, because it's something that kind of referenced it. You can tell terrific stories in limited amount of time. You can effectively tell a story in 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Some of the best stories or some of the best movies even are literally just short, short, not 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes long. Sometimes more story isn't better. Sometimes you need a lot of story. What's called movie The Last Emperor. That movie was like 3.5 hours long, the full cut of it. You needed all that time for it. What's called you need that kind of story a lot, but sometimes you don't have a lot of time. Sometimes you only have a few minutes, and you have to utilize those minutes to the best of your ability. 31 seconds to hit a couple people twice, and you don't even know why one of them is there. That's you already messed up because you introduced someone and you don't even know exactly why they're there. Outside of the fact that you're just remembering that they're there. Of course, I'm referring to him. I don't know why she was in that match at all. I forgot she was on the main roster. But hey, that's kind of where we're at. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Can,
too, and I'm cutting you off for a reason. There's like this expectation that every single here's a challenge. I'm gonna try to do it. If not before Monday, definitely. Well, I'll do it for Monday Night Raw. Let's just keep a tab exactly how long these wrestling matches go. Okay? Because there's this idea that wrestling matches last for like 40 minutes. and every hour of a show you got these 40-minute wrestling matches. When I think the average is somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes, and so when you get 31 seconds of a match, yeah, that's a huge drop off. But on the same hand, it's not like you got these 2-hour classics between Arnold Scotland and Bruiser Brody. It's just like we have this misconception, and that this misconception that a wrestling classic lasts longer than what it really does. Now, I'm not justifying, or I won't say again, but I'm not justifying anybody being put in an enviable position of having to do something for 31 seconds. But at the same time, let's just be realistic with the train of thought that Nick is taking us on. When you do get those 31 seconds to do something, how do you build upon them? How do you perform in a way that makes people remember what you did, good or bad? How many seconds of promo time has Reigns done, and we can't stop talking about it? you know, how much is he butchered, and folks just won't let go of it. But nobody's complaining that you don't give Reigns much more time to do promos. On the flip side, I'll bring up Wade Barrett. After Wade Barrett won the Intercontinental Championship, before they started on the creative direction that they have it going on, he wasn't getting any mic time to talk about being Intercontinental Champion. Oh, mind you, before his injury, they couldn't shut the man up, and that was for a reason. So in that same sense, when we're looking at talking about giving divas a chance, um, and I'll bring it back to the point that you made. If you gave Summer Rae and Eva Marie 31 seconds time to do what they needed to do, what are you going to see? And believe it or not, Eva Marie has had 31 seconds to do some things, and nobody's going on and spending time about seeing her develop her character, etc., etc., etc. And then another thing too. As much as we don't talk about Total Divas on Lose at all, because I don't think we really watch it. But a lot of the stuff that's happening on Total Divas gets you invested in the people that portray these particular characters in professional wrestling. And then we were ticked off because it seemed as if for the longest they were having strings of matches that didn't last much more than one could blink or breathe. But all of that was just really B-roll for the Total Divas episodes that were coming up. And every now and then the WWE will get into these moments where you have these blocks of matches where it's like three the non-Total Divas versus the Total Divas, and the match is just a cluster bomb of stuff happening. But it's all to do the segue footage when they're putting Total Divas together. So I mean going back, and I know I kind of maybe went around the park before walking in. I think we should consider that as fans too. Is that how long do we expect wrestling matches to last, and do we even understand the dynamics of just the business as a for-profit organization, which will dictate how these things kind of flow, and how what's chosen in a given show to what's chosen in a given show to bite the dust, to take the hit, so to speak. I won't. I'll tell you that later. This is other story, so we won't get too far off topic. But it's when you've got a 3-hour program sitting in front of you, right? And you got so much stuff that you want to do in 3 hours, and nothing's gonna work the way you plan it. Sometimes fans, sometimes athletes, sometimes all sorts of things happen where you have to change gears and be flexible enough to change gears and get stride. So the question then becomes, what takes the hit, and why you needed to take the hit this time in order so you can get all these other things that have priority, or a different priority, or much more immediate and urgent priority than something else. What takes the hit so you can push what you need to push in this given 3-hour time slot, and then why is it that we get emotionally attached to the Divas taking that hit in this one instance when the Divas are actually allowed the time to do what they can do and to do it well? We don't pay attention to it at all. When I think it was in Extreme Rules 2011, when Layla got injured, she was gone for a year with her injury and came back Elimination Extreme Rules 2012. Right? Had this match with the Bellas, or one of the Bellas who was the champion at the time. Forgive me for not remembering. And it was an excellent match, especially since it was Layla's first match back.
Yeah.
I watched the DVD specifically because of that match. It was telling you all about it, because we even watched the pay-per-view. And crowd was absolutely, outside of Layla returning, crowd was absolutely dead for the most part. Weren't engaged really at all. It was the pee break. But if you flip around Monday night and the Bellas get a return match, or whichever Bella it was gets a return match, because Layla won the championship that night, I think. Um, and it goes 28 seconds, all of a sudden you're pissed off because and but how dare they? They should be better about it. I think we're uneven. We're not even handed in that. So that's like 15 different things at once. But back to my main point is: are we really realistic when it comes to understanding the time that it takes to put on a show and what has to bite the bullet, what has to bite the dust? I mean, hell, there's things that are cut and we don't even know about it because nobody knows except people who actually work for the promotion. But I mean, more food for thought.
Okay. I will say this first and foremost. Um, After doing this first little live broadcast of the second Lude Council, which I hope we can make a weekly or regular thing, I have a little bit more appreciation for Roman Reigns and his crappy mic skills so far. Because my mic skills ain't all that good neither. But I'm not performing for nearly as many people. So I don't have to deal with the same kind of stage fright or whatnot, whatever. Thank you, Nick Johnson. Great stuff. That's what we love to hear more than anything. I'm getting more and more messages from some of our Lose brothers that were doing their thing and whatnot. Hopefully we can get them on next time. Uh, aim for yeah, well, we will try to aim for a chosen topic or two each week. We'll always, of course, have side conversations and dialogue we added within. And we will try to announce it ahead of time. In fact, we have plenty of topics within ahead of time in any capacity. Thank you, viewers at Tire Sandwich Maker. We sure do. Or we can connect with our local. I know there's a sandwich place not too far from here called the Sandwich Box, and they don't deliver, but I can definitely make a run. And we all got connected to sandwich people. And that would be a terrific logo for a new food. We eat sandwiches. Or I don't know. Actually, we use sentences is already taken by another company. Games and Social company, I think. That is one hell of a story. We use sentences. I can't think of anything better than that. In any case, thank you, viewer. I don't think we had any more than one viewer at a time, but we'll try to expand on that in the future. Thank you for joining us for this. Well, I don't even know how long it is. How long it's been at this, but thank you for joining us. We will try to make this a regular if weekly thing. And again, I am Diz, Chris Land, Infamous Diz. Thank you, Mr. Morris, the godfather of this stuff, and Nick Johnson, who was with us in text and feeding us some of these terrific questions. Thank you, good sir. We love you dearly. We are brothers, of course. And if you've been watching, you are officially part of the family. Thank you for joining this family reunion. We will meet you again in the near future. Thank you. Outie.